Hello, I hope the first week of the cleanse is going amazing for you. We're getting a lot of questions, which we love, so keep them coming. I'm going to address a couple of topics on the cleanse, like what do I even eat? What about protein? And why are we giving up or eliminating some of the foods that are recommended? So what to eat on the cleanse? This depends on where you're starting at. And a healing, cleanse, modifying foods, all depends on where you're coming from. So some of my functional medicine clients that go to our yoga studio or in the community, they're in this cleanse and they have already eliminated the gluten, dairy, animal products, caffeine, alcohol, and there's still more room to go and grow and heal for them. So, and this is me as well. So let me just use myself as an example. And then if you're like, well, that's great, proud of you, glad you're doing all that, then we'll talk about where you can go forward from just where you're at. So if you've already eliminated all of the things on the cleanse list, I promise you, guarantee it, you can still bring more mindfulness into your eating. So for me, what I'm doing and a lot of my clients, what I've suggested that are already living this cleanse lifestyle to heal chronic inflammation and illness in the body, they have either looked at their meat intake and then found what's appropriate and right for them. They've looked at their processed foods, so even clean foods like siete chips and pancake mixes and processed clean cookies and ice creams. Those things are my mindful not go-to. So when I'm not being mindful, when I don't have a lot of mindfulness, I'm going to reach for those things and fill up on them. They're clean. They don't have gluten. They don't have animal products. They don't have caffeine. They don't have sugar. Maybe some coconut sugar, maybe some maple syrup, but they're pure forms of sugar, which are okay, but they're not whole foods. They're not things that are going to be nutritious and fill the body with the proper nutrients of micronutrients that we really want in the diet. So if you are someone who has already lived this cleanse lifestyle and you're like, this is no new news to me, Jen, that's what I suggest. Now, if you're starting, and there's no shame in this, in a very standard American fast food, grab and go, packaged food regimen, or just not a whole lot of mindfulness in your diet, you're relying on what's convenient, not a whole lot of planning, what's available, I guarantee you this will be the easiest thing for you to just look at the four groups, maybe 5, and pick where you want to start. So you can pick for this last week, what did you eliminate? Did you do alcohol and caffeine? That's great. Next, let's start to look at processed foods. Seem to be, like, from the people that I've talked with, the easiest and most popular thing. I'm going to let go of processed foods. But within processed foods, what is your standard? What is your tier? So are you looking at anything that comes in a label or a package with a label, or are you looking at processed foods that are still clean? I would encourage you to, instead of snacks, to go to Whole Foods. Fruit is its own portable Tupperware included meal that you can take. Grapes are already prepackaged. Bananas come in their own Tupperware. Oranges, cuties, you can peel and go. Fruit make really, really great snacks. As well as smoothies, little meals, little leftovers in smaller portions make great meals. And you'll see where a culture is set up for just whatever's convenient, and our bodies are keeping that score. So for gluten, for dairy, these two foods are really big because they feed inflammation in the body. There's a lot of information out there that you can look and dig into on your own of why this happens. But if you talk to anyone in functional medicine, anyone in the healing space, they'll say, oh, go paleo, go gluten and dairy free. Those are the two biggest sources besides inflammatory oils and sugar. So your 3 safe oils on this cleanse, or really forever, are olive, coconut, and avocado. So take a look at the oils in your diet, in your wrappers. That's what eliminating processed foods really does for us, is we didn't know there was canola oil and citric acid and sunflower oil and all these polyunsaturated fatty acids in our foods, right? Animal products, they burden the digestive system, lots of meat. They make the blood acidic and pH, and then we feel like crap. They put a burden on the liver, because then the liver has to take that protein and turn it into usable form, which is glucose for the cells. We don't get energy by eating protein, by eating meat. The body expends energy in taking that protein and turning it into glucose and putting it in the cells, right? So if we're looking at what do we eat in the day, and we're like, well, what about my protein? There's some really great literature out there. about getting protein from plant-based sources. It doesn't mean that you can never have meat, but on this cleanse, if you're starting with I don't eat meat, then maybe you bring in mindfulness to get in leafy greens for your protein, because you might be a little bit on the 20 to 40 grams per day is all we actually need. You might be on that 20 or a little bit lower if you're not eating enough calories, because there's protein in everything. And then if you're not being mindful about what you're eating, you could bring in some leafy greens, some potatoes, some lentils, something to get some grains, some rice, some beans if your GI tolerates that okay, and bring that in for your protein sources. Those who are on the other end of the spectrum, who I have 3 meals a day with animal protein or a protein supplement, this would be a great time for you to go ahead and alleviate the liver, the kidneys of this demand, their urea production, everything that's going on in the body in this protein breakdown process is really stressful for the body, and it creates inflammation, it creates acidity in the body, and there's so much misinformation. Science has not been a part of recommending protein needs for people in the body. It's been culture and influence. You can find a research article for any viewpoint. You can, because they can hone in and just see one little portion instead of the whole bigger picture. And that's what's happened with protein. I will link in this email and under this YouTube video a source to a free webinar about protein, and then some other sources that I really like. But if you can bring in leafy greens into your meals, if you can bring in some grains that if you tolerate them, some vegetables, you're going to get your protein needs. So what do you eat in a day? First, look at how many times you're eating and if you're getting enough calories. I would recommend for an active adult, meaning you do more than sit all day and sit in bed. I mean, you probably have a job maybe where you sit at, but you're active, you're moving, your brain is using a lot of your fuel. Get about 4 to 7 meals in a day, like little snacks, like a meal. A meal could be a smoothie. It could be a banana and some dates. It could be some veggies and some lentils. It could be a salad with berries and fruit and a little bit of animal protein if that's where you're at, and some sweet potato. Meals don't have to look like our traditional 3 portions of 3 elements of macronutrients or different products on our plate. Meals can just be little things that we grab and go. A juice, a green juice will have lots of protein in there as well. So are you getting enough calories? Once you start eating, intermittent fasting is okay. So you might go 8, 10, 12, I'd say 14 at the max, especially if you deal with a little bit of hormone imbalance. You'll want to be on that lesser time frame of intermittent fasting. Once you start eating after your window, start to eat every 2 to 4 hours. As babies, we were nursing or drinking out of a bottle every 1 to 3 to 4 hours, except for a 1 period overnight. Our digestive system doesn't change. And breast milk is mostly carbohydrate. That's something that's usually not known in the general population. But our GI system doesn't change, and the way that our body wants to eat and take in calories, it doesn't change. So get yourself on an infant feeding schedule, reconsider what meals can be. You can bring in really simple things. For lunch, my lunch today, I'm having a smoothie. It has some berries, some cherries, frozen banana, a couple handfuls of spinach, water, and an orange squeezed in, and some honey. That's my lunch. And it's prepared, it's in my cooler. It has everything packaged in that I need. I'll get my protein, I'll get micro fats from produce. Produce always has micro fats, and I'll get glucose. And then I've already made it to the gym this morning. We'll have some yoga practice tonight, and my muscles, they're fueled. I have everything I need, my amino acids, my glucose, my micro fat. So I hope this helps. We'll continue to send more recipes. The cleanse manual is just a sample day. You don't have to do that all 21 days. Gosh, that would be boring. Keep your questions coming. They'll help generate content for our question and answers and our videos, and we want to hear from you on this cleanse.